I think I want to reverse what I've done. So let's change this back to regular text, and then let's do, I can do what I want in bold. And get in here and do the dirty work. I can do what I want. That feels much better. Now, oh yeah, here's what I was seeing. If Steve is saying, yeah, I think you have to smoke outside, and Emily's saying I saw some ashtrays outside, those tails are going to cross. So we're gonna look at that a little bit more closely once we get there. But now let's start applying tails. So I basically hold down Option and drag on this pre-made tail, and then I can position it. And basically what I've done is I've just taken a single stroke, something like this. Let's do pen tool, boop. Make a little line like that. And then in the stroke settings, profile, I like this one here. And I make my width around somewhere between 4 and 6 usually. I think, what is this one? This is 6. And you could reverse the direction of it with this button here. There's all sorts of things you can add here, like arrowheads on either side, you know, a dashed line, and fine tune, you know, the gaps and the size of the dashes, how round each one of those things is. But for what we're doing here, that profile for the stroke with the 6, and that tends to work for me. Because it's pre-curved, as an object I can just kind of move it around and usually get like 80% of the way there quickly. So let's see. Looks pretty good. Mom's going to reply. Now take this stuff home and bring me dishes and silverware. So now she's got 2 word bubbles in one panel here, and I have a method for that. And that's what this connecting line is for, which is just another line, but it doesn't have a taper to it. I'll show you how I do this. So basically, I connect the 2 bubbles with this single curved line before doing anything else. And then there will be ultimately a tail coming off the last line of dialogue. And let's straighten out that curve. What I want to do is create something that looks like a continuous line from the first bubble through the last bubble and ending with this tail pointing at her. So something like that. Also, this tail is a little bit wide compared to this, so I would probably bump up the width of it a little bit. And I could, you know, fix that a bit by either making the width of this smaller or dragging this up into the bubble, because you can see where it meets the edge of the bubble itself. That overlap point gets narrower, right? The curve feels a little funny to me too, so what I really need to do is something like that, and move this over. That way there's a little bit more of a graceful, continuous curve there. That should work. Let's do this one. Also, this tail is a little bit wide. Now it looks like I've got a similar thing happening in panel 3. Let me just bring both of these over since I've already kind of fine-tuned the curvature. And let me just flip both of them. That's a good starting point, at least, right? Squish this guy down, make that one longer. Put another tail on here for Mom. And now let's add a few more. Now, a lot of times I like to I like to avoid a really tall long tail like that. It feels very aggressive. I like to call them stabby. But yeah, I try to avoid stabby word bubbles as often as I can. And this is the problem we were just looking at. So Emily is actually the one saying she saw some ashtrays outside. And then Steve is the one saying, yeah, I think you have to smoke outside, Mom. And now our bubbles are crossing. And that's something I try to avoid as often as possible, because I don't like it. So it's okay to have a little bit, you know, typically we want our word bubbles to read from left to right and down, like our eyes would move down a page. And so there's a little bit of right to left that's acceptable, you know. If we went this far in one direction, then that might, you might be tempted to read this bubble first and then this. So there's probably a hard rule, you know, that has to do with exact degrees and angles and spacing. Obviously I'm just eyeballing stuff, but I think this is probably going to get us there. I could be wrong. Hang on. Let me see if I move that over a little bit more. To have a little bit, you know, typically we want our word bubbles to move from left to right and down like our eyes. We're kind of so, there's a little experimenting here. Acceptable. You know, if we went this far in one direction. Let me grab these control points to make this curve closer to what I want. I don't like how hooked it is at the end there. I think that'll work. And the final tail here, as she's dismissively walking away from us. Cool. All right, now a very satisfying thing to do is to highlight one of these guys. Go to Select, Same, Appearance, and it's going to highlight all of the tails that have that tapered profile. And I'm going to go to Object, Path, Outline Stroke. Now this turns them into filled shapes. See, the control points move along the outsides of them now instead of down the center. And I'll use the eyedropper to sample the color from the word bubbles, and let's start merging all of them. So under the Pathfinder window, there's these shape modes, right? And I'm going to unite. And do the same here. Do the same here. And here. And here. And here and here. And finally there. But we still have our connecting lines to do, so those didn't get selected because they're not tapered, but we'll do exactly the same thing to them. Object, Path, Outline Stroke, eyedropper them, and then let's use the Pathfinder to merge these shapes. So we're almost there. When my word bubbles overlap the frames themselves, what I like to do is I'll highlight this panel, right? So just this outline shape. Let's hit Command C to copy it. Now let me uncheck Paste Remember Layers. I had that selected when I brought in the artwork. That way everything came in named the same. It was separated across layers. But what I want to do now is paste this panel into a different layer. So let me select word bubbles. And see now if I hit Command V, I'm pasting into the word bubble layer. If I had not unchecked that, then it would have attempted to paste back into panels. And see now it's saying that I've locked it. Do I want to unlock it? Which I don't. So uncheck. And then instead of hitting Command V, let's do Command Shift V, and that will paste it in exactly the same position that it used to be. And holding Shift, let me click on my combined word bubble shape here, and so now I've got that duplicate panel and that word bubble selected at the same time, and I'll go to Object, Clipping Mask, I'm sorry, and then Make. And so that basically has cropped that shape to the outside edge. But I've pointed out before, you can probably see this blinky line here as I'm zooming in. And that's because we have just, it's too tight of a shape, you know, like what it's doing is it's revealing the panel in the background. So it's not happening now, but if I turn on panels, you can just see a hint of that panel there. Yeah, there it is. And the way around that, I mean, you could just move it ever so slightly like that so that this white area here is covering the panel, but the technique that I tend to use is just to create another white box as a mask shape, like so. And let me just turn off that stroke. So now I've got this object masking off the irregularity. And let's do the same thing here. So panel, Command C, then on word bubble layer, Command Shift V, select both, clipping mask, make. And then, you know, sometimes I'll even take that same mask object that I made, and holding Alt, or Option rather, I'll just click and drag, and that duplicates it. So I've made a copy over here, and then I can just change the size of it. Now, oop, it doesn't look like it really worked on this one. Make it a little bit bigger. My mask shape was too narrow, I think. Wow, having all kinds of selection problems today. There we go. That's pretty good. Now, one thing that's not working here is that, like I said, the last thing that's said needs to sit on top of the previous thing that's said. So I'm going to move it up. And think of it like a dealer, you know, dealing cards. You know, you have one or two things, and you know, the first thing falls down, and then the second thing falls on top of it. And so there's sort of an intuitive way of looking at the word bubbles that you know, matches this sort of physical behavior. Panel 3, we're going to have an issue here because if I move this on top, then, you know, first, second, and then third goes behind, and that's not how it would work if we were dealing these things out. So I need to basically break this shape and add just a little extra piece here. And I can do that by going using the direct selection tool, which is this white arrow. Let me just click on the shape here, copy, now deselect. And if I hit Command Shift V again to paste on top, so I've created a duplicate in exactly the same place. And now I just need to do a clipping mask again and mask out just this part right here. So I made a shape, and then holding Shift, let's select both the new duplicate shape I made plus this little object. And then let's do the command or clipping mask again. And so now that has trimmed you see, our entire shape here, which is still, if I use the direct selection tool and click on it, you can still see the entire shape in there. But it's, for visibility's sake, it has just been clipped to this little chunk. And that now creates that, you know, layered approach that we're looking for. There's directionality to it. Things are stacking in a way that seem to make sense physically. And that looks like about it. Now at this point what I would do is I would deselect my let's unlock everything. My image layer. This is where I put my script screenshot. I'm going to drag that to the trash because we don't need it. And all of these template items, we don't need these anymore, so I'll just hit delete and get rid of those. And that is the finished vector art. We talked about our colors and everything. There's no need to do any more fine-tuning in terms of color because we're dealing with the same environment across all panels. So everything is 35% opaque. Oh, this is strange. So this is set to color in the blend modes. This is set to color, but this one's not. I wonder if that's just a problem that's been in my template for a while. A good question is there actually a difference between these two blues right now visibly? Sometimes there's an optical illusion kind of thing. It's hard to tell. But if I have a classic color meter, so basically, like, you know, because there's because there's transparency here. If I clicked on this, it says 35%, but you see right here in this box, the color is actually a lot darker. That's what it looks like at 100. And if I were to select it with the selection tool and then inspect what that color value is, it's going to show me the color value of the 100% solid opaque version of it, not what we're seeing here. I have this little tool called Classic Color Meter that somebody introduced me to a while back, and this is kind of nice because it's a floating color selection tool. You can select and inspect colors in all kinds of different ways. And if I... And what it's going to do is it's going to select the color as it's visible on the screen. So if I hover over here, you can see it's 203, 217, 226, 203, 217, 226. So yeah, there's no real difference visibly between these two, but just because I want to be completely OCD, let me change that to color, because that's how it's supposed to be. That made more of a difference when the color layer was on top of other layers before, which it isn't now. One last thing I can do is just look for errors. So scanning over the entire strip, like here's one. You know, my color layer here is not overlapping right. That might have been a result of me trying to mess with those word bubble tails and clicking on something on accident earlier. But I like to try to take care of these things now, because if it ends up printing, it'll look like a bad registration. Here's a little piece that has exited the frame. I can just grab that and squish it up. All that is the line from Emily's legs here. So let me hide the stuff layer real quick. And yeah, it looks like my stroke went a little bit outside of the frame, and nobody's going to notice, and the artwork's not going to suffer just by squishing it. Yeah, overall, I think that's pretty much all of it. So now we're ready to export, and what I'll do is go to File, Export As, and I want to select Use Artboards, and then that basically adds the entire outline here, all the white area, because that is the area that I've designated in my artboard here. And you see my specs, the exact sizing was intentional. I created this with the intent of printing it, so everyone should come out uniform. and exactly the right size if I export this way. So File, Export as, using artboards, and there's only one. So you can select range or all. It's just one artboard we're exporting. And we're sending to this folder with the rest of my output for chapter 11. So let's do export. I use 600 pixels per inch, that way it's really, really high res and will print beautifully. We want white as the background, otherwise if we select transparent then all this white area will be clear. And that should do it. And you'll notice there's a difference here too, that these lines feel really bold. But when you zoom in, they're not quite as chunky. Zooming out, like especially in the faces, see how chunky everything looks. That won't be evident when we look at the final output here. So PNG, let me click on strip 156. Yeah, you can see the faces are there's a lot more variation in the line thickness versus this. This is just an artifact of what it's like to work in the vector file. But yeah, so that is, we've got 156 done. And now we're just going to continue through this process and do 5 more, because the goal for the day is to knock out an entire week of comics, because I have been lagging. Yes, we want to save before closing. And then this is the artwork exported from the iPad. Let's just go ahead and remove that. Now I've already exported the other 5 strips from the iPad into Illustrator to avoid doing that step multiple times here during the stream. So let's go ahead and open 157. So now we're at the doctor's office, and first things first, let's go ahead and get rid of the gradient layer because we won't be needing it. And now I'm curious, let's check and see, is the color layer different on this one too? Yeah, it's set to normal when it should be color. So it's actually in my template. Let me go ahead and open my template and make that fix right now. Here's 4-panel strip. And on the color layer, yep, that should be set to color. Wow, and look at that, it actually does make a difference on how it interacts with the gradient layer. So if I was adding gradients, for whatever reason, it would be slightly different on panels 3 and 4 here. So we want color to be, well, yeah, sorry, here we go. Yeah, this is how it would be different. It's really hard to see the difference here, but I see it. And that's what matters. It's going to bug me. So let's change that back to color. Let's get rid of this extra placeholder. And had a few of these things unlocked. That's how I want my template to exist, so let me just go ahead and save that. Yes. All right, cool. So we're back. We got rid of the gradient. Color should be 35 and set to color in every one of these panels. That's how I want my template to exist. Wow, I'm just noticing something here. What is knockout group? Prevents the elements of a group from showing through each other. I don't think I need that. Okay, so these are all uniform. Oh, that's right, and then there was that little fix we just did where the color was kind of overlapping the layer, or the panel. Let's see, that's not here. So that error we fixed a minute ago, it wasn't in the template. It was just a slight mistake that I made while adjusting those word bubbles. Oh, that's right. And then there was that little fix we just... So I think we can just lock the color layer now and not return to it. Meanwhile, let's go to our background. The doctor's office, we want this to be reduced to 65%. That's the transparency I usually set for any background stuff. and that allows the characters to kind of have some separation from the background, and you know, similar to having depth of field with a camera. You know, you want the background to be a little bit blurry so that your main characters or focal point stands out, and that's what we're achieving by giving it a little bit of transparency. And 65 is just a comfortable rule. Like, this feels pretty washed out. You know, if we were like standing really far away from something, or if it was hazy, then that might work, but 65 is my rule of thumb for interior environment stuff. Okay, so let's go back to our script file, and let's highlight some text to bring in and make a couple of corrections as we go in terms of punctuation and capitalization. So first, our nurse is talking to us, and for this we should probably unlock panels, word bubbles, dialogue. Oh no, not panels, just word bubbles and dialogue. Those are the only ones we need to manipulate at the moment. Now this is another one of those word bubbles where there's no way to subdivide this text. Oh, I'm totally lying. So I was going to say that, you know, it's either going to be the top line's longer than the bottom, or the bottom's going to be longer than the top, but nope. If I squish it in a little bit, I do have this nice balanced text box where the center line is widest, and that is ideal for placing inside of an oval. I could probably align them perfectly that way. Okay, thank you. Having trouble selecting my control point. A beautiful thing. See, I can align things to the center like this, and I can align them to the center like vertically. But see how it's not centered? And that's because we're dealing with a text box that is only going to align from the top. Adobe, for some ridiculous reason, has not yet come up with a button for aligning text vertically to the center of a box. And I simply can't understand that, because even PowerPoint, the much lauded PowerPoint, which is actually, in my opinion, having worked in software for a while, this is an incredible piece of software. The amount of work, attention to detail, attention to backwards compatibility, it's simply astounding what they've gotten away with here in PowerPoint, and for it to be as ubiquitous as it is too. But yeah, if I put sample text here, well, now it's doing that automatic formatting, which would also be kind of nice to have in Adobe products, but you can turn that off, so do not autofit. And I can align my text to the middle, but I can also align it to the middle vertically. And how great would that be for doing word bubbles? But evidently, people that have asked for this feature, requested it from Adobe for years, are often told, well, we just don't see the need. We don't see that anybody actually needs that feature or wants it. The fact that it's been in PowerPoint for well over a decade should tell them something. That is an incredibly useful thing. And I really, really wish it existed in Illustrator. It would make my job so much easier. But anyways, I don't want this to turn into software bashing live stream. So mom says, hey, go put these in the car. There should probably be a comma there. Steve says, the magazines from the waiting room? I'm sure they'll let you keep those if you just ask. These pieces of dialogue. These pieces of dialogue might be a little harder to space out. So this is an instance where subdividing that text in a way that fits beautifully might be hardest if I'm just simply changing the boundaries of the text box. So what I'm going to do is manually add some line breaks here, holding Shift and then Return, giving it some soft returns. That would fit better in a bubble. Yes, perfect. Now, do we want to give it a little bit of headroom here, a little breathing room, by having it go off the top? I don't know if it's necessary on this one. It almost seems like that's like too much, given how light the text is and how much room we have to work with. So I might just do this, and that'll also give me some space to add tails. You know, for mom, it needs to. The tail is going to have to wrap around this word bubble here. And so having that wrap, let's see. Again, that's a little stabby, but that would suffice. But it's so far away, like it's unnecessarily far from the speaker. That's closer. Just fine tune it a little bit. I think that's probably right. But now, see, now this is that problem we were just talking about. There's probably a temptation to read this bottom word bubble first. The angle here, you know, from center point to center point, it's too. It needs to be steeper or something. What if we were to just do this? Yeah, it's a little unsatisfying. Could it be a single line of text? Now that would obviously be the best way, because we're putting that first piece of dialogue almost on top of the second one. And that's looking a little bit too square. Let's take some of the edge off of that. Is that oblong? Huh. It's not a symmetrical object. Something happened at some point here. Sometimes I'll do this so much that I can't tell anymore. Like I've lost objectivity because I've been too close to it. So overlap probably isn't necessary now that we've got such a narrow word bubble. But I do think this is probably the right choice. And that tail is on the verge of becoming too stabby, but you know, this is kind of a special situation. We'll figure it out. So So now she's going to be mad. Shh, I pay for all this. Belong to me. Mom was having some really interesting delusions as her mental acuity started slipping more. She started to believe that any service that she paid for entitled her to take anything from that service. So, you know, even though she was simply just paying for insurance to go to the doctor, for some reason she believed that entitled her to take all the paper towels and Q-tips and cotton balls and everything from the doctor's office. And anytime we would go to the ER, it was hilarious. Like, on her way home, I would look in her purse and she would have taken like all the little, you know, the bowls and cups and stuff that you are given to drink from. And granted, some of that stuff was disposable, but it escalated. It got worse and worse. And at the peak of things, she wasn't even waiting to leave the hospital. Like, we would show up and she would instantly just go around the room, like right when we got there, and start collecting things and putting them in a bag and then handing it to me, like saying, go put this stuff in the car. I'm like, Mom, that doesn't belong to you. I pay for all this, belong to me. I guess, you know, I could add emphasis just to the word pay. Like, I pay for all this. But I think this feels right. Belong to me. She knew she was doing wrong, otherwise she wouldn't be shushing me, right? Hilarious. She turned into a straight-up klepto gangster towards the end. Which I really want to become a major plot point here in the story. I think, see, for this one, you know, having a little bit less padding around the word bubble kind of adds to that feeling of it being a very soft, quiet kind of response. And then last, here she says, and then Steve says, Mom, this isn't how it works. Whoops. Capital T, you know, punctuation. So the difference between, you know, small padding around the word versus the larger padding around the word here, it's almost like you could, a good way to think of it is if there's emphasis, if the person's words have velocity behind them, like here, then they need more room, you know, to contain that energy. If that makes any sense. You know, let me just copy this one. Mom, ellipses, this isn't how it works. I think it deserves an exclamation point. And possibly let's make this just a little bit more rectangular. Grab both of those guys. Okay. Is this word bubble, does this count as shouting? It's funny because she's also saying shush. She's shushing me, but she's doing it sternly. And what I mean is, like this object here. You know, if she was really trying to be loud about it, then I would add this extra piece. Like so. It's a strange contradiction for her to be saying shh loudly, but you know what? I think that's, it works for me. I like it. All right, so let's add our tails again. This one's gonna go quick. So we have our nurse. I think there needs to be a bit more curve on that one. I don't want it touching this line on the cabinet. I don't want the word bubble to feel like it's part of the background. And then there's always the question, you know, do you have it come this way? Or do you have it come this way? I haven't really figured out the right set of rules for that. I think sometimes when you're having a dialogue between two people, it's good to have them feel like they're symmetrical. So there's like a mirror effect. If one faces left, the other one should face right. I mean, I don't know. Does this feel better? I don't think it does. I don't know. In this case, I feel like this is the right direction. But this is low enough where it, you know, it needs to be coming sort of from the front of my head. Yeah, I'm not clear. If there is a rule or a set of rules around this, if you guys have answers, feel free to let me know. Yeah, well, see, and this kind of shatters that whole idea too, because having it come that way from the back of my head seems more correct to me. Maybe it's a matter of balance on the panel. You know, like maybe it's the sort of thing that if you were just looking at your panels and word bubbles, you know, get rid of the tails even. Or get rid of the bubbles themselves. Like maybe it's the kind of thing that if you imagine this panel being a plate and these are heavy objects on the plate and you're holding it in the middle, that you want them balanced on the left and right so that the plate doesn't tilt either way. That's kind of a way of thinking about how to balance things in page layout. I don't know. There's got to be something. There's got to be a way to quantify how word bubbles are to be used. And of course, you know, we talked about rules before. I mean, all rules are meant to be broken. You know what? Maybe even saying that is not right. People say that all the time like it's a hard, fast fact. You know, rules are made to be broken. That's not necessarily true. But in terms of creativity, setting limits and then finding the exact appropriate times to setting expectations and then finding these moments to break expectations leads to visual interest. That is absolutely factual. So maybe that's a better way to say it. So, okay, she is shouting a little bit here, and I think in this case, stabby is called for. I do want a little bit of a curve. I don't think I've ever done a word bubble tail that was just a straight spike. At least not in this project, but Yeah, that's feeling appropriate. Last one here, she says. Now this one should not be as pointed. Whoops. So a little bit shorter. Well, it is still kind of pointed. That's probably fine. I would be tempted to put the tail on this side. For this one. But the fact is I've done it on the other side on the previous two. So I think this also has to be a left-oriented tail. So that's probably good enough. Let's do the extra satisfying step of select same appearance, object, path, outline, stroke. Sample the color of the word bubble. And now let's set about merging all of these in Pathfinder. Click, click, merge. Click, click, merge. Whoops, I missed one. Probably because I changed the width. Okay, click, click, merge. Oh, hey, Oscar. Yeah, definitely satisfying. Click, click, merge. Oh, this one too. Object path, outline, stroke, sample, click, click, merge, click, click, merge. Okay, we can unlock our layers and do some cleanup. Let's get rid of our template elements. And maybe a final pass for spelling, and just to make sure that none of our layers got moved backwards or forwards on accident. Yep, I think that works. So let's go ahead and save this file and then do our export trick again. Export as PNG using artboards, 600 pixels per inch, white background. Let's hit OK. Good. So we're 2 down, and let's get a last look at this 157. Comparatively, those chunky lines have been calmed a bit. Feeling good. I number it and everything. Yep. Okay, good. Well, moving on. 158. Time to fix that color issue. And that weird knockout group thing. No gradients. We're still going to be dealing with 35% opaque on all frames. Good. Same color on all. Yep. So again, unlocking dialogue and word bubbles. when I get into writing mode, I'm working in Google Docs. Should she still have a purse on that last frame? Great question. Great question. Damn it! Yeah, she should have a purse on that last frame. Good catch. Well, can I do this without going back into the iPad? I think I can. And it might be fun to do that now anyway. Sometimes it's faster just to go back into the iPad and do it there, but let's see what would happen if I did it here. So there's an unexpected result. The opening on the top of the purse is just this one line, which I didn't copy, and that ended up not coming over here, which is kind of nice because you don't want it to look exactly the same. So making a few little adjustments and not having that exact line, it's kind of completes the illusion that this was intentional. I could even add a little line here. Let's make it white and then do that same stroke profile taper. Reduce the size. Path outline stroke. That's kind of cool. And another cool thing to do would be to give the impression that the straps are overlapping it. So I could do like something like this. And then in Pathfinder, do an intersect. Thanks for catching that. That really helps. Now let's get rid of some lines here too. If I just do a line like that, select both and then use the divide tool in Pathfinder, that essentially just cuts it. And I can delete that part. Whoa. Maybe I should group these objects right now. Looks like there's a piece there I can get rid of. Ah! Whoops. There we go. Knife that out. Every time I do that, it brings the black part of the purse to the front. Let me see, if I hit it with the white direct select arrow, command, and then use the bracket. Oh, yeah, there it is. That's funny. Created some weird new grouping here that I didn't intend to. So let's do that. Oh, wow. It almost deserves to be on its own layer, huh? Let's do this. I think this is close enough. Quick edit. And need a little strap up here, don't we? What if we were to just skew the entire layer? Then it's riding too far forward on her shoulder. If we skew it like this. Oh wow, yeah, no, we're really going into left field now, so. What I will do I am going to move this purse to its own layer. And then let's just lock all other layers and then use the direct select tool to highlight just these points. And then this isn't the most ideal way to do this, but I can hold Command. Yeah, see, that's gonna have some weird effects. I bet the puppet tool would be a fun way to get this just right. But anyway, that'll do for now. Let's see. Make another little object here. It's pretty close. That'll do. Yeah, is there a puppet tool in Illustrator though? Yeah, is there a puppet tool in Illustrator though? I'm not seeing it. Transform. There is. Select now. A toolbar on the left under one of those. Oh, really? Whoops. Uh-oh. Huh. I might have a incorrect palette set up here. Shape builder. Interesting. Puppet tool in Illustrator. Puppet warp. Just show me where it is. Oh, well, yeah, the pin. I should have seen that somewhere, right? Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, my palette here is super weird. I kind of set something up that was working for me a while ago, and I'm just working around the fact that things are missing sometimes. Like, where is the free transform tool? I know if I hit E, that's how to access it, but I don't know what it's nested under. Yeah, that's jank. There's got to be a better way, right? Oh my god, look at this nest of worms I've opened up. A can of worms. Do worms live in nests? I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We fixed it. It's done. I think one nitpick is that the purse should be hanging lower than this. So let's do one final tweak. Bring it down. Uh-oh. So let's highlight all these points, click on a point and drag. And then now we've got these little angular irregularities. What I can also do here is just highlight these guys and remove the anchor points. And then now that I have less, I can just manipulate one of those curves and make it feel more natural. Let's do the same thing here. Remove anchor points. Remove anchor points. Probably should have done that earlier. And now what happened to that line? Oh, where? And there's a little gap here in the artwork. Let's get rid of that one. Where's the opening? The hell? It vanished. Is it still on the Mom 4 layer? Yep, there it is. So let's move that back up to the purse layer. Move the purse down. Dude, what is the deal? I know you're in there. Oh, yeah, that's right. I changed the entire sizing. Durr. Okay. Fine. Feeling good. Let's group that, move it back down to Mom 4. And I think we're good. Oscar, thank you for catching that. You solved the disappearing purse problem. That should have overwrote the last PNG. Good. Perfect. So now we're back here in 158. Go back into our script. How much are you eating? I find it hilarious that Karen has become a slang for like overly entitled aggressively bitchy people, because my mom was truly named Karen, and I wonder how well, she wasn't really up on what's trending, so I don't think she would have even realized it was happening. But the irony is not lost on me. Oh, not much. Just 1 spoon of rice. She was always fond of just downplaying how much she was eating, and that was terrible at the doctor's office because we needed to give them data to work with. And I had to always be there. To make sure they got the real info. I feel bad for all Karens. It's true. I dated a Karen once. It was my 3rd girlfriend. It didn't last more than a week or 2. And I hate to say a big part of that was like, oh my god, she has my mom's name. It's weird. Mom, that's not true. You eat way more than that. Let's emphasize. Way. It looks like we can stand to fix a little kerning here. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. Let's emphasize the word one also. The doctor says, what about the lactulose? Should lactulose be capitalized? Not that it matters once we move it into this font. There will be no difference between an uppercase and a lowercase L. Another question, should there be ellipses? I feel like that's the right move. Oh, this is a big word bubble. I'll probably just do that. Okay, that makes it look right. This one's probably going to have to extend outside of the panel. Now, the doesn't have to be there. And honestly, that is going to conserve a little space and it'll make the text fit a bit better. Is the important to storytelling though? Because I just got done explaining that, no, Mom, you're not telling the truth. You eat way more than that. And the doctor saying, sort of acknowledges that he's hearing it. So what's more important here? The storytelling or the formatting? Well, 9 times out of 10, storytelling is always the right answer. There sure is a temptation, though. And when we're talking about formatting, you know, it's really about the amount of padding, or I'm sorry, yeah, when we're talking about formatting, like what I'm referring to is the amount of padding around the edge of the word bubble, right? So when we were here, it wasn't quite the same. Yeah, this spacing here is wider than this spacing. It's interesting to allow the formatting to dictate or influence the storytelling. I've made a lot of concessions and rephrased things or reframed conversations to make sure that they fit better, and that's part of the interesting some of the characteristics of working in a comic strip is like these concessions you have to make in terms of the limited space that you have. I find that hugely creatively helpful and inspiring. It imposes these like limitations on what I can do. That helps me make decisions. How about the lactulose? How many bowel movements are you having per day? I'm okay with this. Even just that little change of putting how instead of what has helped the padding a little bit, just a tad. Yeah, I don't know. These are imaginary landscapes I kind of get into sometimes and start entering this realm of trying to make the right decision when there really is no clear-cut right decision. Which I find hugely therapeutic. I think that's why it's really great for kids to do this kind of stuff. Like, it teaches you to trust your instincts and gives you a situation where you're the only judge of when your work is done or when something is correct or not. So there's a degree of confidence that you teach yourself when you're drawing comics. I think two things that are super good for kids are comics and Legos. And, you know, take that with a grain of salt, as I have no kids, but I guess that worked for me, right? So he says, how many bowel movements are you having per day? And she does not understand the question. What movement? And there should probably be some quotes. So yeah, we're really emphasizing that she doesn't understand what he's asking. How many times a day are you pooping? And we'll emphasize bowel. Should I emphasize pooping? The age-old question. Yeah. Let's do that. Holding shift. There we go. So we've made a slightly oblong word bubble here. And that sort of reflects the oblong outline of the text itself. Yeah. And then she's also incorrectly reporting her number of bowel movements per day. Oh, maybe one. Let's do bold. And maybe we'll like make it a little less round, but just a little. Maybe one. And I'm jumping into correct. No, she's having 4 or 5. Now we have to leave. Ooh, there's a lot of text in this last one. So, yeah, maybe this could move over here, but let's see if we can squeeze this all in without feeling too crowded. So Steve is responding. No, she's having 4 or 5. And I was just thinking, you know, do we want to spell out the words 4 or 5? Because she did say 1 a second ago. And it's like once you stick with a rule, you gotta stick with the rule, right? I could have done 1, but that looks stupid. That wouldn't be right. So yeah, well, I think we want to spell it out, even though that means it will take more room to do so. Oh, maybe 1. She's having 4 or 5. And then the doctor says, okay, comma, we might want to reduce the lactulose then. She should only be having 3. But then mom's mad because she is continually in a situation because of her lack of mental acuity where people are not talking to her anymore, they're talking about her right in front of her. Ooh-wee. Yeah, this is going to be a tricky one. Not to mention, we've got 3 characters speaking, and the order of the dialogue is going from right to left, so you know, we're having this diagonal right to left orientation of things, this progression. And let's see, why you talk to him? Okay, I don't like that anymore. If she's saying why you talk to him, she should have an angry expression on her face. But this, the squinting thing is all about her saying, ah, maybe 1. It's like a dismissive face, right? So I think we are going to have to adjust. So what movement? Bowel movements, Mom. How many times a day are you pooping? And then she will say, oh, maybe 1. Like here, right? Let's make sure to get our stacking of word bubbles correct. We want that back to front directionality. And then Steve says, no, she's having 4 or 5. Doc says, okay, we might want to reduce the lactulose to, she should only be having 3. Maybe the word dosage is more appropriate here, and that would also be better for formatting, because then I could move the word to down a line. Oh, and yeah, 3, I'm going to spell that out. And now she's going to say, why you talk to him? That should be bold. Oh, and there's that problem we mentioned earlier, that if you're using all caps, then it's going to result in a capital I, and that ain't right. Why you talk to him? Okay, so probably gonna want to squish this word bubble and have it protrude from the frame. That's good. Having that overlap too helps a bit if you're doing if you're having that problem where one bubble has to be to the right and one has to be to the left. It it's an extra visual cue that lets people know that what order to read them in. And then with this, I'm pretty sure I want that to be a yell. So let's grab this component. It's hard to select. There we go. Copy, paste in place, and let's sample it. She has to be upset, so let's go in and start fixing the mom face. me just grab all of the eye stuff here. So eyes, eyebrows, eyelids. Let's grab it all. And just bring it on over. But now she's like looking at me saying, why you talk to him? So it's almost like she's complaining to the doctor, or complaining that I shouldn't be talking to the doctor, but she should be mad at the doctor, not me. What if I were to grab these eye components, use those instead? Now, like I mentioned a minute ago, I mean, if I was really going to do this the right way, we would go back into the iPad and just redraw. But a lot of times, just making little corrections like this is faster this way. So yeah. That's what we're doing. Speaking of little corrections. If I were to just delete all of these points. Whoa. Okay, I'm starting to reveal the seams here. I don't really want to do that. Oh, here we go. Delete that point. Bring that in. Get rid of that point. Maybe bring this down to cover up. There we go. A bunch of little flaws here from when I was coloring this layer. But, you know, there's a certain degree of error that is going to go completely unnoticed because of the way that we're coloring in something where the border hasn't been closed anyway. Whoa, look at that. It's interesting. Dang. There's a whole lot. Let me just slice it here. Oh, ho, ho. Pathfinder. And that brought the white to the top, so let's drop it to the back again. Fine, fine. And this is exactly why I've said before that it's good to zoom in and clean up your artwork before moving it into Illustrator. Because granted, this is a great way to zoom in and fix problems, but it's of course going to be better if there are no problems to begin with. Especially when grabbing control points can be kind of a pain. Seeing a little something here. Yeah, and a lot of this, you know, doesn't even need to be fixed. But what I fear in the long run is problems with trapping when it comes time to print. So just trying to avoid that now. Boop. Let's just remove these path points. Whoop. Remove that one. Could probably use another white piece. Move to the back. Wow. Somebody was in a hurry. Move to back. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. Go to the Steve layer. Drop that in the back. That gets knocked out. Might be able to just move this over. Knock that out. Boy, there's a number of issues here. Like not just this, but looks like the bench that she's sitting on isn't quite aligned to the layer. Nor is it filled with color. And for that, I'm going to have to look back at previous whoops. For that, I'm going to have to look at previous strips to see what I did for color on these benches. So I want to try to be consistent, which we can do now. So if I go back to, let's say, chapter 3. Where is she sitting in the doctor's office? Here we go. Yeah, so that was filled in with color back then, so it looks like I have to do that now. Can I just borrow that element here? Let's go into strip 14. Let's try it. Copy. We want to be on the doctor's office layer. It's this one. Control-Shift-V to place it in the same spot, and it looks like it's a little off. That works though. So let's see. Holding Alt, I'm going to drag it over. Alt and Shift. Looks like not all of my layers are uniform here. Like there's some, or panels rather, not layers. Their spacing is not exactly the same. Do I want to fix that? Probably not. I think that would involve more work than just tweaking this object. But, you know, some of this stuff sticking out the bottom is not good, so. Oh, that's on the mom layer. Okay, so let me unlock both of those and just drag all this geometry up there. Move this stuff inboard. It's fine. All of this will move right there. Here's good. And then we just have one more. Oh, grab it. Why is it so hard to grab? Oh, you're killing me. All right. Grab these points, align to center, scooch them over. And just scooch those up. Okay. Better. So now we just have to add tails to these word bubbles. Oh, my hand is starting to cramp up. Time to do some hand exercises. Whatever the fuck this is. These are not exercises. Shake it out. Shake it off. Time for coffee, though. So far, so good. I'm liking how this is going today. We're at 158 now. And that means... what do we have left to do? 159, 60, and 61. So we're half done with today's word bubbles. And I might have to I might have to take a break here for a little bit. My stomach is growling like a lot, so it might be time to put some toast in there. Toast may still be the perfect food. Let's see here. How much are you eating, Karen? Yeah, let's do it that way. As soon as I'm done with this strip. Oh, and you know what? Hold on. I kind of got distracted in the middle of filling in those colors, and I never got back to Mom's facial expressions. So she's mad and looking down at me for sure here, looking up at him, kind of relaxed, and then mad again. I don't think there's much more left to do there. Yeah, that'll work. So okay, we're gonna finish the tails and the word bubbles on this strip, and then I'm going to stop the stream, go eat something, and then later this afternoon come back and do the last half. But the goal is to knock out all 6 of these today, so I can move on and cross some stuff off my list. Just 1 spoon of rice. Would it be better if the tail's coming from this direction? This old problem again. Uh-oh. See, now I need to lock my layers again. That's how my colors get misaligned. We don't want that. So no, I think I was happier with it like this, but my angle's wrong. That's fine. Holding Alt and dragging. Let's duplicate that tail. This one's got to curve around the bubble, so we'll do that. That is not true. You eat way more than that. Ah, yeah, see, this is not... There we go. This is not a problem when I'm operating at full resolution. This is... the difficulty I have grabbing those handles has a lot to do with that I'm forcing this laptop into 1080p for the stream. Sacrifices had to be made. All right, what movement? So she's speaking twice in one panel. That means we need a connecting line. And then the final tail. But now, let's see. If she's speaking like this, you know, the continual line connecting everything seems like it's curving funny, like an S shape. Is it possible to do... Now see, and that's not going to feel good either. So I think the answer is we'll just do a very, very subtle curve to this line. And the S shape is okay as long as it's just not too radical. Come on, handle. Jeez. You're a bastard. There we go. Okay. Do that. Now this one's going to be interesting because we're necessarily having to overlap a tail entirely. This can get dicey sometimes. But I think we'll be able to make it work. So, and a lot of that will have to do with the fact that not only is this one obviously going to be the same color as the bubble itself, but there's a difference in thickness. So this tiny thin line will feel like it's going behind there. I mean, obviously a discerning eye. Whoops. Did I forget to hold Alt a few times? A discerning eye would notice these things, but you're also catering to the untrained people who are new to comics, and so you want to make sure that it's obvious, right? Okay. Select, oh, nope. Click on that. Select same appearance. That'll get all of the tapered lines in one stroke. And then I'm going to hold Shift and grab that one too. And let's go to Object, Path, Outline Stroke. Select the color, and now let's go and start merging objects. Click, Shift, click, merge, click, click, merge. And of course I'm holding Shift to do this, so I can highlight multiple objects at once. That needs to be on top. Click, 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 merge. 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 Okay, so let's do the clipping path on this one. On panels, I'm going to select that, copy, Command Shift V to paste in place on the word bubble layer. Hold Shift to select both, and object path. Object clipping mask make. Add our mask object to help it. I feel like I need to bring it in just a little bit. And let's move this one up layer. This one comes to the front. And then we have to do our trick here because we need to have these bubbles stacking in the right order. So I'm going to Command C, Command Shift V to duplicate and then make a clipping mask of just this part. Hold Shift to select both. Object, clipping mask, make. So now they're stacking correctly. We need to do one more clipping mask here. And then a mask object like so. Let's make it white with no stroke. Now, one thing that's bothering me, and this is a nitpick probably, is on number 4 here. Just, I don't know, man. These two lines, the way that they come together, it feels like it's not enough overlap. You know, like why not just move it down a couple of pixels to have it like so. So what I'm gonna do here, let me just release the clipping mask. No, you know what? Let's not release it. So here's something that I'll do in a case like this. If it's too subtle, sometimes I can take the direct selection tool and click on this bubble and grab that control point at the top and just move it up a little bit. And so see how it's cutting through the panel more? It's about finding a good balance between that and making sure that the bubble doesn't feel like it's too tall. So let's do it right this time. Click and just move it just a smidge. And then now this text only needs to come up just a little bit. And now I can add a mask object back in. And this time it doesn't feel like it's... It feels more intentional this time. Like before, it almost felt like a mistake. I gotta admit, I'm not 100% stoked on this busy 4th panel. You know, I don't like when my word bubbles overlap tails like that. In this case, I mean, I guess, could I just move all this down? And let's reflect. Wait, why didn't it work? So deselect the text. Flip horizontally. You know, that would solve a lot of problems. Okay, let's get rid of this tail. We need to do this over. Oh my gosh, what's happening? All right, this is a correct oval. Copy, paste in place, sample the color. Now we're back to baseline. Let's get rid of this mask. Let's get rid of the clipping mask. We won't need that now. And frankly, this is so... that tail is so long and unnecessary now. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably not worth messing with anymore, but Yeah, that feels less crowded now. And then what I can do is fine-tune the placement of this one. Still have this object over here, which I've already apparently converted into an outline shape. But I think I can still use it. And then one other thing I'm noticing here is my background, I still need to make that 65% opaque, because my backgrounds need to be a little bit lighter and let that color show through. It's helping. Whoa, oh, yeah, there we go. Lock that layer. Where is this best going to sit? I kind of liked it covering her shoe because it covers some complexity that way. But if it's too far away from her, then it doesn't feel right. I don't know. I think this is probably good. Okay. I think we're good. I think I need to eat something now because my brain is feeling a little stretched thin. Let's get rid of my template elements. Feeling good about this. Let's go ahead and hit save and export as PNG. Use artboards. 600 DPI. White. And then let's take one final look. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I even feel better about that overlap now that I'm seeing it in as a PNG, because that, you know, heavy vector kind of stuff doesn't feel as it made it feel busier than it actually was. Although, you know what, there's one thing that needs to change here. I just noticed my... Yo, there we go. Just noticed this is not centered. In fact, that actually might help if I give it a little bit more padding. I'm gonna be messing with this for forever. At some point you just have to make a decision. Do that one more time and it should replace the previous save. I believe that should do it. Yeah, good enough. I'm going to have to think about that for a while. I'm still not exactly sure about that last word bubble. Most likely I'm overthinking it at this point, so... Anyway, time to eat lunch about it. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Thanks, Oscar, for helping me find that one critical error before I moved forward with this project and didn't notice it. And I will be back later this afternoon to continue inking this week's worth of strips. Thanks, everyone. Bye.